fundamental update for 26th of October 2025. If you're following this channel, you know I drop fundamental updates every single weekend, which would help you understand what's going to happen for the week and help you, place your buyers technically on what type of trade you'll be taking for the week. These have helped a lot of people increase their profitability in the market, so you shouldn't joke with the information. So this week, which is going to be 26th all the way to 31st, we are going to be having a very, very volatile week, and I would explain why. But before that, we know that we all look at what happened in the previous week, and I would explain exactly what happened. Now, in the previous week, I told you that dollar is going to be what? Bearish, right? Now, before I go into details, let me first of all explain something to you all. Whenever it comes to fundamental updates, I want you to understand that the market wouldn't, play out immediately whenever it comes to fundamental updates. Do you understand? If, let's say, we are having a rate cut decision, right? It doesn't mean that due to the fact that fundamental updates is bearish, markets will just start selling immediately. Do you understand? That is not how fundamentals work. Fundamentals is different from your technicals. Most times, fundamental takes time to play out. You understand? It takes time to play out. It doesn't mean the fundamental is wrong. It means the market hasn't really gotten enough volatility to push, that particular currency in the direction of the fundamentals. For example, the time in which we were expecting a rate cut decision, right? I told you all that dollar is going to be bearish, but this was where dollar was ranging for a while. Right? At this key level, let me mark it out, at this level. After the rate cut, we saw a drastic drop on dollar. Then after the rate cut happened, we saw dollar started gaining strength. Now, last week, I told you all dollar was going to be bearish, but we didn't see much volatility in the market. And that was why the market went all the way to the top here and had a pause. You understand? Now, I'm still telling you this week that dollar is having a high chance to still be bearish, and I would explain why. But this lack of volatility made a lot of us not to take any trade in the market. Most of us, FOMO'd, most of us jumped into the market and we got SL'd. You understand? Which I'm going to advise you now using this medium. Please and please have patience whenever it comes to trading. Trading is more like an investment. So don't just jump into any trade because you understand where it's heading. You have to wait for it to play out. Because I said dollar is bearish, that doesn't mean dollar after selling. Dollar might still even kick this high, break this, sweep this high before it sell drastically. But all I know that we are going to see at least a little bit of sell pressure on dollar, a little bit, maybe down to this position before we see an upward movement. Dollar is not yet bullish. That is one thing I'm sure of. So what happened again based on other currencies last week? Now, another currency which we're going to focus on is the JPY. And now the JPY last week, I told you all that JPY is going to be what bullish, but all of a sudden I changed bias for the team and I sent this to the Telegram channel. That is why I usually tell you all, please and please, if you are receiving this fundamental update for the first time, you're hearing this for the first time, go to my YouTube channel description, look for my WhatsApp contact, look for my Telegram link, join those platforms, because I would be giving any updates in case anything should happen, in case any news can affect what I give out during the weekend. So stay active. Even though you're listening to this weekend analysis, which is very important, also stay active for any change that might happen in the market. I mean, we are dealing with fundamentals. A speech can just come up and the market will get affected. Do you understand? So now, JPY, I told you all that JPY was going to be bullish, but all of a sudden we had a sell pressure here. Now, why did this happen? I want you all to understand that during the weekend when I was giving this fundamental update, the investors had optimism that the new prime minister, which is against rate hike, wouldn't be elected. Now, the prime minister, which is against rate hike is going to make JPY weak. So investors were having optimism that no, she's not going to be elected. But on Tuesday, we had the news that she was the new prime minister. And all of a sudden, JPY saw weakness, which was why it came to this, key level and started dropping drastically. Do you understand? And this affected a lot of analysis in which I had for that week. But I still gave my student the updates. I still gave, people in my Telegram channel the updates, and it prevented a lot of losses. I myself didn't take any loss based on a different bias. Do you understand? So JPY became weak. Why? Because the new prime minister is not fully sure of a rate hike yet, and she's expecting, expansionary policy in the market. This is where the government will spend more in the economy and they will reduce taxes. This is going to make the economy well and strong, but the currency would be weak. Why? Because investors are not going to put in their money in that currency. They are not expecting any interest rate hike for the meantime, but this is a short-term trade. What does this mean? It means that the market can still come all the way from here and pick up strength and still be bullish eventually, especially when inflation starts rising and there is now a clear decision that a rate hike will happen. Because no matter what the prime minister wants to do, whenever inflation rises drastically, the Fed, the central bank, they will obviously resort to a rate hike. Do you understand? And that will make the currency bullish. We are looking at JXY. JXY just simply stands for the Japanese yen currency. But let us look at other currency, other pairs, right? This is what the GBP JPY looks like. And I actually wanted to take a trade on that change of bias, right? We had a change of bias on JPY, saying JPY is weak, which means GBP JPY was going to be bullish. I had an entry here, but the market swept me out before going in profit. This would have been a good ride, making up to 98 pips. But I don't cry over spilled milk. We are still going to have more opportunities like this, and we eventually did, right? We eventually did. So based on the USD, let us go back to USD, right? DXY. I said DXY was going to be bearish, but also I want you all to understand that last week we had a lot of news events. Right? Let us go back to the chart. Why is this thing showing me this? Let us go back to what we were looking at. Last week we had a lot of news events, and one of the news events we had in which the market was focusing on was the CPI. Now the CPI came out, and it came out negative, which gave more room for a selling pressure on dollar. Now I want you to understand that most of the currencies like the GBPUSD did not really see much reaction. Why? Because GBP itself was weak due to the fact that we also had CPI on GBP on Wednesday, and you can see why GBPUSD was selling drastically. Even GBPAUD was selling drastically. Why? Because inflation rate on GBP came out very low, 3.8%. That is far from the forecast. The forecast is actually 4.0%, but it came out 3.8%, which was lower than investors' prediction, which means inflation came out low on GBP. And we can see on GBP AUD, we can see that there was a lot of selling pressure during the week. You can see all this selling pressure during the week, and we can look at GBP USD as well. You can see a lot of selling pressure. I and my students were looking for an entry at this key level, but I told them it's still a neutral. Until we get a confirmation, we'll take the trade. We did not eventually take the trade. Thank God for our confirmation we were waiting for. The market just went all the way down when the news was released, and you can see the drastic drop. Well, this week I'm expecting the market to still kick up a bit. Maybe after getting to this level, maybe it's heading to this demand area over here before pushing up. Well, let's just understand that the market actually is going to still be bearish this week on dollar. You understand? Based on the rate cut decision. I will explain everything when we get to that. So that is simply why GBPUSD was selling. But for Euro USD, I want you all to understand that I actually took a trade on Euro USD, and I also priced in with the news. And this was my first take profits, which was up to a 50 pips, 48 pips actually. Yes, that's up to a 50 pips, but I'm still holding this trade. Eventually, we'll get to this stop in which I'm expecting the rate cut decision to push me up to this stop, right? If the market should open and we should see a rate cut decision, at least the market should from here go all the way to the top, and I'll be expecting a TP hit. But for now, I and the VIP signal members, we closed at a 48 pips TP1 hit, but we are still holding the rest, which is going to be up to a 68 pips profit, which I'm having confidence that is going to be hit when the market should open this week. So that is simply it for what happened last week. I've explained everything. For AUD, I want you to understand that AUD, I don't really have a clear bias yet, and I would explain why when we get to what is going to happen this week. You understand? But I'll be explaining what is going to happen. In case there's any clear bias on AUD, I will give out the update on my Telegram channel and also on my WhatsApp, status. So let us go. What are we having this week? I want you all to understand that this week is a very, very important week. We're having mostly monetary policy. We're going to be having rate decision on card, which is this, right? Rate decision on card, and they are predicting that the rate decision is going to be a rate hike, which means card is supposed to be supposed to be strong. You understand? If these predictions come out right, card is going to be strong, which is based on the rate decision. Well, we also had US dollar rate decision, which is cut by 25 pips, which means the rate decision is going to be a rate cut, which means dollar is going to be weak. This is why I said dollar is going to be weak. It's going to be on 7 p.m. on Wednesday, which is going to be at night. We're going to be seeing volatility at night for people who are watching the channel. For the Nigerians watching the channel, 7 p.m. in the evening, that's when this news is going to be released. Also, what else? We're also going to be seeing AUD RBA, the government speech. You understand? This is going to make buyers on AUD to be clear. So after Monday, I'll be giving out the buyers on AUD. I'm going to let you all know if AUD is still strong or if it's weak, or if maybe they are expecting a rate cut or a rate hike. Do you understand? So also we are going to be seeing CPI release on AUD, which is going to make things very, very much clear also as well. So JPY, we are also going to be seeing a monetary policy on JPY, but I am certain that it's going to be kept on a neutral due to the new due to the new prime minister. The new prime minister is against rate hike, so they are going to keep the rate at a steady, which is going to be 0.50%. Do you understand? This week is going to be very, very volatile. See all the news we have. All this news, most of them are going to affect the market. There is no least important. All these news are very, very important. The CPI, the monetary policy, the Fed rates funds, you understand? All of this, even on euro, we are going to be seeing a lot of volatility in the market. And if you don't understand fundamental, you're going to be on the wrong side of the market. Most of the time, you're going to be on the wrong side of the market. Most times, technical traders just get lucky whenever they enter a trade technically and the market move in their direction fundamentally. I will call it luck. If you don't understand what you're doing, if you don't know why there was a huge spike in your direction, it's simply luck. If you really, really want to be in the business of trading, you should understand everything that is happening. And that is why I'm offering this opportunity for a macroeconomics mastery class. I've already explained the details. You understand, it's still at a discount of $42. If you miss out on it, it's going to go back to $175, and it's not going to go back to that discount. I want you all to take opportunity right now if you're interested, and you get back to me. So what is my fundamental, or what is my technical prediction for this week? Let us go straight into the market, and I will explain everything for you all. So like I said, DXY is going to be weak, which is the dollar, right? Dollar is going to be weak based on the rate cut expectation. So rate cut expectation, if the market doesn't price in before Wednesday, then it's going to push down on Wednesday. Do you understand? That is my expectation on dollar. Maybe a fundamental can come up and push the markets up, maybe risk off environment or something. But based on monetary policy, I am certain that dollar is looking very, very bearish. It's still looking very bearish, but that doesn't mean it might happen immediately. That's why I always tell people, wait for technical confirmations. Do you understand? So for the JPY is still neutral. I don't really know what I would say for JPY, since the interest rate decision is coming out neutral. I would say be very, very careful. JPY might range a bit because we don't actually know what the market is up to. This is where the market is at currently. We don't know what will happen, but just be very careful when it comes to trading the JPY quoted pairs, because everything is looking neutral for now. Do you understand? Everything is looking neutral for now. For the GBPUSD, I'll tell you to wait for a confirmation. The market seems to be heading to this zone over here. Wait for a confirmation before you take your trade, because this is a higher time frame zone, is not a lower time frame. So if maybe market gets to this position, you want to wait for a change of character before you ever look for an entry for a long. You understand? Don't just go and set a buy limit here. it's very, very risky. That was the same thing I told my students, and we prevented a drastic loss at this zone. So you can see it's very, very important to always wait for your confirmation, especially when you're looking at a key level in the higher time frame. Do you understand? So what else? For the Euro USD, I told you I'll just keep on holding Euro USD. I already have my SL trailed to positive SL, which even if the market should come back down, I'm going to be living in profits. Either way, I've already made profit from this market, 48 pips profit already, and I'm hoping it's going to reach a 68 pips or 70 pips profit, which is all the way to this stop. I am the VIP signal members. We are holding it clearly. You understand? For the card JPY, I told you all JPY pairs are at the moment are just neutral. I don't really have any confidence on JPY until I have a clear bias. So that's one thing about fundamental. If you don't have a clear bias, it's best to just stay out. You don't jump in all the trade. Have a clear bias. So after the monetary policy should come out and they keep it at a neutral, maybe I'll read the fundamentals behind it. I'll read what the prime minister have in mind, and with that I can tell you all what my decision is on JPY. For AUD as well, to me, I still feel like AUD has possibility of still being weak, so GBP AUD should still be looking at a bullish pressure. But for now, since GBP AUD is dropping, I'm not going to tell you to buy. I'm going to tell you to wait for a change of character. We can see a clear downtrend here. So if the market should at least break this high and then come back to retest it, then you can start looking for your entry at this level at least. You understand? If market should do this, you can start looking for your entry at this level. But for now, I'm not going to tell you to take an aggressive buy. I'm still having this, prediction that AUD will be weak, but I would wait for this week's fundamental on AUD to be released to have a clear bias on it. So that is simply it. So in case I'm leaving anything out, for gold, I want you to understand that gold sold drastically last week due to the fact that the risk off was over. And I told you, gold don't just move up, gold don't just buy. Gold is a fundamental commodity, so it's mostly affected by fundamentals. You can see, so the risk off was over, it was called off, and you can see the drastic sell-off on gold. But we are still looking at a rate cut decision this week, so gold has high chances of being bullish for a bit, but the risk off is over. If the risk off keep coming out positive, if investors start getting positive about the environment, gold might actually start selling. But if the risk off should continue, we might still see a drastic push to the upside on gold. So that is just simply it. I don't want you to take any trade based on just rush. I want you to always wait for a confirmation and always be patient, you understand, so that you won't always get hit by your SL. That will be it for the week. So with that being said, I want you all to have a lovely week ahead. In case you have any question, you can ask me on my WhatsApp contact. If you have my WhatsApp contact, if you don't, you can just check the YouTube channel description and you can get my WhatsApp contact from there. You can text me up there. With that being said, have a lovely day ahead and a profitable week ahead.